What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Thanks to all the news coming out of Comic-Con last week, I figured today we would do a fun Clone Wars-centric episode. So all 10 questions are about the Clone Wars. But before we dive in, we need to say thank you to one of our new patrons who joined at the Jedi Master level, T. DeCoke. Thank you so much, T, for your support.
Yes, thank you. Jason Shivman, Brandon Madigan, and Zachary Shively all asked if Dave Filoni could use the revival of the Clone Wars to change some of the planned arcs to make them fit better with the Star Wars Rebels or Resistance or the new movies.
I think maybe we might see that in the Siege of Mandalore arc. If you watched my video about which arcs I think are coming, 2 of them have already been pretty much completed as far as the voice work went. Like, they hadn't finished the animation. I don't think they're I doubt they're going to go change anything about those.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be as they were presented. I think you can go watch those stories now on StarWars.com. I'm not expecting any major changes to that. Siege of Mandalore, I think they pretty much made from scratch here. I think it's going to be basically a movie it'll be 4 episodes probably, but it'll basically be a movie to close out the Clone Wars. And there, I think, is potential for more connectivity between Star Wars Rebels or even Resistance or the new movies, since I figure that's coming from more or less scratch.
Yeah, I think definitely we could see a connection to Rebels, with Ahsoka being there.
Yeah, it could end kind of the way Star Wars Rebels did, with a look into the future of these characters.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the live-action movies or Resistance?
Maybe. I don't know. I think that's a little harder. Well, the live-action movies, Revenge of the Sith makes a lot of sense, but I think that could have been a given anyway.
Yeah. Christopher Larson wants to know if the new episodes could be the way Revan becomes canon.
I really doubt it.
They don't have time for that.
Yeah, I think this is going to be about saying goodbye to the Clone Wars, and specifically the characters we love from the Clone Wars. I don't think that they're going to somehow go back to Mortis and redo that scene. Like I said, I think all of these arcs have been planned for a while. I think they have a very specific story they want to tell. I don't think Revan's going to be involved at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they've got 12 episodes. There's just not time to bring in a character like that.
Especially, they're not going to do him justice. They're not going to...
That's true. Even if they were to hint at his existence or, something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it
would feel weird.
We got a little thing with Darth Bane in Season 6. I just don't think they're going to take the time to be like, also, Darth Revan. Yeah. Like, that's just going to be a little tease. I think that would be more upsetting than anything else. So, no, I think this is going to be more about saying goodbye to the series.
Levi Bond asks if Disney will greenlight more episodes if these next 12 do well.
These all keep kind of like leading into each other. It's nice.
Yeah.
Almost like I did it on purpose. So... Disney is a business. I'll never say no. I don't think they're going to say, like, this is definitely the end. Because if it does really well, if it takes off on the streaming service, they would probably be interested in doing more. Mm-hmm. But I think that the intention for now is to say goodbye to the Clone Wars and give it the ending that Dave Filoni wanted it to be. Because the Siege of Mandalore was supposed to be the series finale.
Exactly. I think this is his chance to give it a solid ending, like a solid send-off, a goodbye to the show. I don't think they're gonna make any more after this.
Yeah, there's potential. It is possible, because we know that there are more arcs that they had planned, but Dave Filoni probably already has enough on his plate with Star Wars Resistance and maybe more animation projects. Mm-hmm. I think this is kind of a passion project where he was just like, this is for the fans, this is for me, like, this is for anyone that loved the Clone Wars, and you've told me this before, that it's a gift.
Yeah.
Like, what we're getting is a gift, and to be asking for more already is like, let's just enjoy this for now.
It's also a way for Disney to get people to sign up for their new streaming service.
That's also true.
But mostly a gift to the fans.
It's a gift you have to pay for.
David Harper Jr. wants to know if the new Claudia Gray book, Master and Apprentice, about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn could be about their time with Duchess Satine.
I think that, yeah, there's a possibility for that. Right now, all we know about the book, its description is that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are sent on a dangerous mission from the Jedi Order. So it's like the most vague description ever.
Yeah, and that it takes place before the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. And considering that's something that we know happened, I think it would be worth exploring. I would be fine if it were a totally new story, but also I think there's a lot of conflict to be explored in that story about whether or not Obi-Wan wants to stay with the Order or leave for Duchess Satine. Claudia Gray has written a lot of good romance stories in the past.
That's true. And I love Duchess Satine's character and her story with Obi-Wan.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of potential there.
Max Crichton asks if Dave Filoni could ever be put in charge of a live-action Star Wars movie.
I think it's possible. I would be on board for it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even know if he wants to do something like that. He loves animation. That's kind of where he's been this entire time with the company. You know, Clone Wars, Rebels, now Resistance.
Yeah, I think that's the question, is does he want to do that?
Yeah.
People keep saying, Dave Filoni should do this, and he needs to do this.
Or he deserves it.
Yeah, it's like, well, he just got the position, like, animation supervisor, or I can't remember the exact title, but, like, he just got put in charge of all the animation projects at Lucasfilm. That might be his dream job. He might not want to go into live action.
I mean, if it were up to me and I could do live action, or if I could do animated series instead of a live action movie, I would go animated series because you can just have so much more freedom.
That's true. I mean, like, it's kind of the same way to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer for you. In season 7, the show ended, but they kept the story going in season 8 with comics. And, like, out the gate, they were fighting, like, insane demons and stuff that you just can't do on another budget. Yeah. I mean, a film budget, like, you could get away with a lot, but it's true with animation or any visual medium or books especially where, like, your imagination is the limit. Like, you can just do more. But yeah, I think it's more a question of where Dave Filoni wants to be. I think he would do a great job directing a live-action film, but I've never seen him express interest in doing that. Yeah.
And especially, I know he loves George Lucas, and he's worked with him from the very beginning, very early on, and, like, especially for him to stay true to George's ideas for what Star Wars is, and, like, stay closer to some of the stories that George Lucas himself would have wanted to tell. That stuff's probably well-served animated and not live action.
And not to mention, like, these stories, the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, they're aimed at children. I mean, people like to say, well, the Clone Wars isn't just for kids, because it does get really heavy and violent sometimes, but it's accessible to children at all times. And maybe that's the audience he wants to reach. Maybe that's who he likes serving.
Yeah.
So that's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon, where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content. And this week, we just started doing something brand new. We've been talking about doing some long-form podcast-style content for a while, and people have been requesting it. So we did that. It's, like, bare bones right now, but with all the news from Comic-Con and Thrawn Alliance is coming out, we're like, we have a ton that we can talk about. So we did that, and we literally just did it. We're wearing the same clothes.
Same clothes. Do you want to say you want to announce the title?
You go ahead and do that. It's your title.
It's going to be called Between Two Suns. So it's kind of a take on Between Two Ferns.
But hopefully less awkward.
Yeah, less awkward. We won't have people to interview for every episode. It's mostly just going to be us talking about news, events, and maybe the occasional interview if we can come up with one.
Yeah. So Like we said, right now it's for patrons only, just because we're finding our footing and figuring out what the format will be. But if you want to watch us talk about Star Wars for almost an hour and a half, I think the first episode is, go do that.
Yeah, and it's available to the $1 and up.
It's available to all of our patrons right now.
Yeah. On to YouTube questions. Elemental Jedi asks if we might see some events from Revenge of the Sith from Ahsoka's perspective.
I think to a degree, yes. Maybe potential spoilers for the Siege of Mandalore arc. So if you want to jump forward, I'll put a time code up for the next question. But we know that the arc is about Ahsoka returning to Mandalore to face Darth Maul with Bo-Katan and other Mandalorians. They're basically kicking Maul off of Mandalore. They capture him, according to the Ahsoka book, and then he escapes in the craziness of Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think potentially we might see Order 66 happen.
That would be awesome.
And all the clones turn on Ahsoka, except for Rex, who we might learn about how he took his inhibitor chip out.
Mm-hmm.
So they would fight together. We might see them fake their own deaths. But yeah, I guess I do think that there is a pretty solid chance that we're going to see Order 66 happen from Ahsoka's point of view.
Enrique Zazueta wants to know about the clone Kix and what his future in Star Wars might be.
Okay, so Kix is that clone that got frozen in stasis for like 50 years and winds up in the sequel trilogy era. And the Crimson Corsair wakes him up and he's like, "We have to save the Jedi." And he's like, "You're way too late."
What story is this from?
It's from a short story in the All Creatures Great and Small. It was like a Force Awakens little anthology collection of short stories.
Yeah.
So we know that Kix survives. He was the medic in the 501st. So he is someone who I wanted to kind of tag on to the last question. Maybe he would get a reference or a mention, be like, ever since Kix went missing, because the 501st will play some sort of a role in the Siege of Mandalore. So, maybe he'll get a reference in the Clone Wars, which is how I forced this into the Clone Wars-centric Q&A.
Okay.
But I really hope he shows up elsewhere. I mean, I think that the Crimson Corsair would be someone fun to keep exploring in comic form or something. But yeah, I really love the idea of the last clone trooper left alive.
Just waking up.
Oh, it's like
guys,
yeah,
I got really important news.
It's so tragic, just that.
Yeah.
And now he's like joined a pirate crew and he's just out there somewhere. So that I want to see that story followed up on.
Mm-hmm. Vildarin asks if the new Clone Wars episodes could hint at anything from the video game Jedi Fallen Order.
I
didn't think about this.
I didn't either, which is why I included. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Potentially. We know that Matt Martin has said that the Darth Vader comic is soon going to start dropping some hints. They might not be anything major. So yeah, I think that there is potential for it. Maybe the mention of a Jedi Padawan or something. I don't think we're going to be introduced to the character, so to speak.
I don't think they would name it by name. Or introduce it specifically, the character that you would play in the game, but I could see like a group of Padawan escaping or like maybe Ahsoka helps send them away somewhere.
It depends on, I guess I think that the Siege of Mandalore will end with, it'll be still Mandalore adjacent. It might end with Ahsoka and Rex faking their deaths, but I don't think it's going to show like a montage of Order 66 stuff like we got in Revenge of the Sith. I think it's probably going to be very Ahsoka-centric. So I don't think we're going to see the character, but we might get some references. There might be some hints. I don't know. I don't think it'll be anything substantial if it happens.
Yeah. Stygian Faye wants to know if all of the Clone Wars will be part of the Disney streaming service or just these last 12 episodes.
I expect they're going to put the whole series on there.
Agreed.
I expect that Disney's going to put everything Star Wars on there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll get all the movies, Rebels,
so it'll be taken off of Netflix.
It'll probably, go throughout the rest of its contract, but I mean, people say it seems like every 6 months that, Clone Wars is leaving Netflix, and then it's like, just kidding.
Yeah.
But their contract, it seems like they just keep signing like the minimum deal to keep it on there. And then I think they're going to take it. What's interesting, though, is that the Lost missions were like a Netflix exclusive. So that's, I don't know, some gray area where maybe the Clone Wars will stay on there, because I feel like Netflix will have ownership of those episodes, or maybe Disney's buying them all. I don't know how that's going to work.
I mean, like Rogue One and The Last Jedi are on Netflix.
Right. But I'm talking about the season 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just curious how those are going to work.
Yeah.
After I don't know.
We don't know, folks.
Yeah, no idea. But I would imagine that anything Star Wars related is going to get put on that streaming service. Because they want it to be like a one-stop shop, I'm sure.
Yeah. Last up, we've got Hard Case Race, who asks if the streaming format for the new Clone Wars episodes could mean that they're longer, potentially allowing for all of the known arcs from season 7 and 8 to be told in extra long episodes.
I really doubt it. I like where your head's at. It's like, let's get all the stories. Like
we're just taking that rag and squeezing it.
I admire your optimism.
We want every last drop.
But I think when they say 12 more episodes, they probably mean 12 more episodes as you have come to know them. They'll be 20, 22 minutes long.
Maybe the last one's a little extra long. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. They could be a little extra here and there, because I think that we're getting Bad Batch and Crystal Crisis, and those episodes are pretty much defined already. I think they're going to be exactly what they're on, like on StarWars.com. Excuse me, StarWars.com right now. And then I think that the Siege of Mandalore, there's going to be flexibility there. They could be a little longer. They probably wouldn't be shorter, but they could, hopefully not. But they could be longer. I'm just not expecting that they're going to like just knock out 12 arcs
right
in super long hour-and-a-half episodes.
Well, they're going to be designed without commercial breaks, I assume, unless they're doing commercial type stuff or ads like Hulu does on the Disney streaming service. So they could be a little bit longer. I could definitely see them making the very last episode
I could see that
a little longer. I'm not sure about a double length, but
it's going back to like, this is a gift.
Yeah,
this is something that no one thought was going to happen.
Right.
And let's just be excited we're getting these 12. Not ask for too much more.
Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, let's just expect what makes sense.
Yeah.
And if they go a different way, then that's just an even bigger gift. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. And remember, the first episode of Between Two Suns is out right now for all of our patrons, and you can watch us talk about some of this same stuff, some of these same topics in even more detail. But if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.